Why isn't Gen Z growing up? Bro, what do you mean? I'm 24 and I look like I'm about to retire in a few years, okay? I look like I'm about to die in like 10 years from now. I look that old. Anyway, jokes aside, I know what the guy means. Let's check this out.
The reason why Gen Z have such a hard time with growing up is because Gen Z does not have any of the milestones past generations have.
What happens when an entire generation of people cannot enter a job market because entry-level jobs have collapsed?
Nearly everyone I've talked to recently is just like, yeah, haha, I can't really afford groceries.
The average person in America under the age of 35 will never be able to afford a home.
It's a never-ending problem, and I'm gonna make hundreds more videos like these.
What happens when an entire generation doesn't grow up?
Gen Z have no reason to believe that they're ever going to have economic security.
What's the point of planning a future when everything is falling apart?
Nice.
I've been forced to drop out of university because I simply can't afford to keep studying.
I don't think our generation can budget their way out of this.
Gen Zer says they'll need more than $500,000 a year to feel successful.
At this point, I seriously think Gen Z...
In the US, does it take like $200-something thousand to like rise a child?
is just
something like that?
Why isn't Gen Z growing up?
So that's fun.
If you've encountered a Gen Z person recently and somehow convinced them to like you, they might have shared one of their most sacred and beloved cultural
we're not that bad.
Complaining about how
fidget spinners were like 10 years ago when I was like 2016, 2017, when I was in high school.
Everything is.
Help wanted, but only for boomers and not Gen Z. My 2 new cashiers quit because I said their boyfriends couldn't stand here for their entire shift.
And I, being a short-form brain rot-loving Zoomer who has also spoken to other Zoomers.
Basically, when you see a senior level position, you know they're not looking for Gen Z people.
At least the ones who have developed language. I am seeing a huge increase in this lingering sense of hopelessness that's been permeating in the air. A kind of apathy. A kind of general disconnect from society.
I'm not gonna lie, I've become very nihilistic these last few years because of all of this.
And while it's easy to just call Gen Z something like lazy, and I'll be the first to admit, it's pretty fun to do that too. If you take a moment to dig deeper into what's going on, you'll see that there are some pretty serious issues. They don't own houses, they're not married, they don't have kids. Many aren't even sure what they want to do with it.
Yeah, but think about it. Here's the effed up part. There's way less kids now, right? And there's more and more adults, right? Old people. Eventually, in 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, a lot of those old people are gonna die. Right? And all of those houses, who's gonna buy it? There's gonna be more houses than that are, not owned. Are the property prices gonna go down? I don't know about that one, but until that happens, yeah, us young people will be paying a lot more in taxes because there's gonna be way more old people that won't be able to work. So that's gonna be fun. And we won't be able to buy anything.
It's just a sad TikTok edit that's on an endless looping cycle. And as a Zoomer, it seems like somewhere in the back of their mind, there's this quiet, nagging voice that's just constantly talking to them. It's a quiet, disheartening feeling that by this age,
trust me, I just have YouTube on 24/7, even when I'm driving, when I'm at work. Well, I work from home. When I go to the gym, I always have YouTube on. I never leave my brain alone because it will destroy me.
They should be further. I mean, if we go back, our parents were buying homes at 25 years old. They were starting families at 27, starting wars
27? Bro, when I was born, my dad was 25 and my mom was 24.
I mean, for example, recently I've been watching a show called Cheers, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a show that takes place in the 80s and 90s in a bar that's in Boston. In this show, there's a waitress at the bar, Carla Tortelli, and one of her gags is pretty much how many children she has. She starts the show with 4 children, and then she ends it with 8. The wild part, though, is that she's able to support all of these children just with the money she makes as a waitress. And compared to today, that's absolutely insane. I mean, you could probably barely keep a pet rock alive if you got paid what she did today. And when my 2 neurons started to fire and connected these ideas, I began to wonder, if the generations before us were able to reach all of these milestones, why does it feel like Gen Z is stuck?
Well, when you restart the whole system, when it restarts, because there was a whole world war and all of this. I mean, there were other wars in local places still. I'm talking about specifically the West, the Europe and North America, right? not that much competition. Everything is new. There's not this looming AI danger coming up, right? I mean, AI existed, way less developed, and not to that. Nobody knew about it to that point, right? And it was much easier to start a company, and there wasn't that much competition. Basically, people were moving from country to country, from city to city, much easier. Prices were much cheaper. Homes were much cheaper. But I don't know. I really don't know what happened. People call it late stage capitalism. Well, if that's the case, what are we going to do? Communism and socialism? Yeah, no. I don't think there's a perfect ism. I think we're just effed.
So when I say
tell me what you think,
I'm not talking about the rite of passage that is watching Nickelodeon and then being able to watch Nick at Night, then consequently falling asleep while watching TV, and then waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat to the sound of the George Lopez theme song. I'm talking about reaching the milestones that people have been reaching for generations as they got older. It starts with moving out of your parents' house, then you get a job, you get married, you buy a home, and you have kids. Not necessarily.
I mean, I got lucky. My parents bought me a small apartment, so now I'm looking to get a bigger one or a house. But yeah, I just got lucky.
In that order, and maybe instead of having kids,
no marriage and kids,
might
though.
Adopt a feral dog or a highway.
Who would love my face? Like, be honest. I am disgusting. Fucking
and for
honest.
decades, most people followed that path. But if you look at where we are now, it's like somebody's playing Sims 4 with the Love-Struck expansion pass. Then they went into the settings and turned the.
What is this? Who's playing this? What is this? I was gonna make fun of her nose ring. I've dated like a few girls. Well, not dated. It was a short-term thing. Okay, they were great in bed, whatever. But they were cool. They were fun. One of them was a doctor. Yes, and one of them worked in a casino. So very opposite polar personalities and professions. But it's. I was gonna make the joke that a lot of people that look like this play these kinds of games. I've been proven wrong. But there's a trend.
Up just a notch. Well,
she's probably cool.
More like 100 notches. 100 notches of silliness turned up. And you know what? They probably changed how our Sims look too, because I've seen a lot of people with unnaturally large. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, about 32% of adults ages 18 to 34.
What? I didn't get what he was trying to say. I'm dumb.
Or are living with their parents. That's 1.5 million more young adults living with their parents than a decade before. And that's a 6.3% increase, which is more than double the rate of population growth for that age group. So in my brain, it sounds like we're developing a generation of basement dwellers. It's like
hey, listen, it's just gonna go up. Now it's the norm. People still see it as a failure, but if you're seeing the average, that's now the norm. It's going up. It's 32% now. It's gonna go up to like 50% now. And listen, a lot of those people that live with their parents, they pay rent. They buy some of the groceries. So some of them don't, but yeah.
Needed the Terminators to take over the world. Except instead of having an army of super cool looking robots, we're gonna get an army of that one guy from South Park who plays World of Warcraft, which is probably more terrifying than the Terminators. On top of that, for the first time in modern history,
I prefer
living
Terminators.
with your parents is the most common arrangement for adults under 35. More common than living with a spouse or a partner. Then what about marriage, you may be asking? What about the old ball and chain? The Institute for Family Studies projects that 1/3 of Americans who turn 45 in 2050 will never have married at all. Only 20% of 25-year-old women.
It might be more. I'm not sure, but I think it might be more.
23% of 25-year-old men will have ever married today, and those are close to the lowest.
I'm gonna be 25 and half, less than half a year. So hell yeah.
Numbers ever recorded. But if it makes you feel any better, Batman was never canonically
No, I'm not gonna lie. I think marriage is, just for me personally, I don't give a shit about marriage. I can be with a woman for the rest of my life. I can love her and appreciate her and care for her, and she could do the same for me. Even if I don't sign a marriage document, I don't need that stuff. F that stuff. Just more payments and more documents. Hell nah.
So there's hope for you. Except Batman probably also
if you're into that, that's
4
cool.
hours of brain rot TikToks a day, but that's just me being nitpicky. In 1975, the most common outcome for young adults was reaching all 4 of those milestones. They moved out, they got jobs, they got married, and they had kids. 45% of young people reached all 4 of those. Now let's fast forward to 2024, the year we were blessed with the appearance of Raygun the Breakdancer.
Oh my god, bro.
In 2024, the most common pathway is just the economic milestones, which that would be working and living independently, but not married and not raising children. And that's now just 28% of adults. So not only are they
no shit. You want us as people, as society, to grow and progress the same way. But when you're seeing inflation and prices from like the 1970s until now, it has skyrocketed. And when you see salaries from like the 70s, 80s, 90s compared to now, they haven't really grown that much. And you're expecting us to grow. Now I know it's not just prices. When a society becomes more educated, it's not just the culture, because this shit happens everywhere around the world, right? But it's just the mentality. That's just what happens when everything gets more expensive. Plus, as more people get more educated, they become more, I can say, selfish and individual. Like, I'm 24. I've been living alone since I was almost 19. I cannot imagine living with anybody else. I just, even with a girl that I would love, I would need a big enough apartment to have my own separate room to like film videos and like rest my head from the world. You know what I mean?
Less of these milestones, there's a lower percentage of them even reaching this lower amount of milestones. But here's the crazy part. These milestones haven't just shifted to be later in life. In many cases, they've disappeared altogether from the Gen Z past. So it's not that they're hitting adulthood milestones slowly.
Well, being sure that you will be able to own a home and a safe, reliable job also disappeared. So obviously a lot of other stuff are going to disappear. It's just, I'm being petty right now. You guys know what I mean. I am pissed by what's happening around the world. We're expecting, people are expecting us, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and even a lot of millennials, to act the same way and do the same stuff as what boomers did, right? Meanwhile, we've got different circumstances. We've got something, in some ways we've got it better, and in other ways, yeah.
It's that they're hitting a completely
different
set of milestones. But with all of that being said, I feel like that begs the question. Is this a personal failure or is something else going on?
Multiple.
To afford the
Probably
median-priced
both.
home in America right now, you need to earn $112,000 a year. The median U.S. income is about $87,000 a year. If you go into your closet...
I thought the average home price... Oh, that's the median... Never mind. The average home price in the U.S. is like $300,000. This is different.
Grab your thinking cap, which I know you may have some trouble finding it because you probably haven't used it in a while. You will find that there is a bit of a discrepancy between the two numbers that are $112,000 and $87,000. And the difference between those two numbers is a lot of Robux. Only 27% of Gen Z owns a home, and when baby boomers were the same age, it was over 40%. Monthly housing payments hit $2,800 at their 2024 peak, which wasn't...
Man, look at the average. The average is like $300,000, and the average yearly salary, isn't it like 60-something K? Yeah, but it depends on where you live. The average throughout the whole US, right? In Europe, it can be much worse. Because taxes here are also much, much higher. Not where I'm from, but most of Europe.
It's in the record books. Mortgage rates more than doubled from their pandemic lows, and if we look at rents in high-cost states like New Jersey and California, 40% or more of young adults are still living with
You're paying like $2,500 for one-bedroom apartment in some cities. So, yeah, that's insane.
Specifically because they can't afford to leave.
For all the idiots that keep commenting, just leave, bro. Just move out. You thought I haven't tried, bro? You thought I haven't never thought about that? You don't just leave or just move out.
Yeah, those are people who have never actually moved and they don't know how hard it is, especially if you have a job and you have to like move and get a new job to this new city. It's different if you're working online for yourself.
There's so many variables
Not the
you gotta
same.
be in control of first. First off, in this economy, there's already the rent that you got to worry about. Everything's hella expensive for no reason. So if you're going for somewhere cheaper, you got to make sure that's still a safe neighborhood. So I'm trying to find a delicate balance between a good price and somewhat of a safe neighborhood.
And that's just specifically the housing side of things. What about the debt side? Student loan debt exceeds $1.7 trillion. It's tripled since 2007. Gen Z has an average of $526 per month.
And now people are going to college a lot of people are going to college because they've been groomed. I'm saying it like it's some evil shit, but now it's becoming something evil. People are being groomed into going to college. Even I did, but I left it after 2 years. I dropped out. I can still continue it 2 more years, but I won't. But a lot of people go to college even though they don't know what to study, but they just go because they heard that, there's going to be there should be better salaries and better job opportunities, but for most professions, that's just not the case, sadly. And also, you can find a lot of people in blue-collar jobs making more money, and there's way more jobs open. Yeah, there's pros and cons, but you choose, you pick.
Student loan payments, which is nearly double the
Do
overall
research
average.
before you
and
choose.
84% of Gen Z with student debt say they've delayed major life decisions because of it. And a Bank of
Yeah,
America
that's
survey
sad.
found that more than half of Gen Z adults say they don't make enough money to live the life they want. Which, to be fair, if the measurement is for people to live the life that they want, that can be kind of an ambiguous thing. For some
Yeah,
people,
I was
the life
about
they
to
want
say.
may be getting married, buying a house, having kids, and building a family. And for others, it might just be becoming the #1 Fortnite player in the world. And obviously, there's a bit of a difference between the difficulty and respectability of those two things, which I don't want to hate on building a family, but becoming the #1 Fortnite player in the world takes a lot of strategy, discipline, and focus, while raising an iPad kid takes something. For the longest time, though,
Very bad
adulthood
jokes,
felt
but
like
I
a step
appreciate it.
forward. It felt like a kind of promotion. Moving out meant gaining independence, gaining
I'm bad at
stability,
jokes, too.
and gaining a sense of responsibility and freedom. Now, moving out means you're pretty much losing any sense of stability that you had. You're taking on more risk than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And there's a lot of risk going on in that Pisa. It can feel like you're building your life on the San Andreas fault line, and Dwayne Johnson is not.
I mean, listen, even if you my main thing is the population collapse, the birth rates are going down, right? I saw I don't know how true this is. You can like grok at ChatGPT, whatever, right? I watched some statistics. I love watching that stuff. How true it is, I don't know. But I saw something like, even if all around the world right now, the birth rate goes up to 2.1 or even a little bit more, let's say 2.5, right? And finally, it's above replacement, and it's still gonna be bad. Because it's so bad right now, it's still gonna take at least 30 years, I think it was. So us, people in their teens, 30s, 20s like me, it's not gonna be easy either way. And if you want to take the moral high ground, which if you do, I applaud you, right? And you want to have kids because of religious or statistical, economic, whatever reasons. Economic can be very economic for what? Future? Now? But yeah, just based on that, we can work on so much stuff. Like there's a lot of countries like China and South Korea that have tried a lot of stuff with like they can take off some of your taxes or have low taxes or like no taxes for years or other child benefits, extra money, whatever, right? Just for having kids. It just hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. And I just can't say that it's cultural because it's happening all over the world. And for all of the people saying, but poor countries like countries in South Africa, Africa and South America, that's happening. They are in the surplus still, right? In Nigeria, like 30, 40 something years ago, right? The average per woman was 7 kids. Now it fell down to like 3.5 something, right? So it'll continue falling all over the world, right? So not just but the next few generations are very effed financially wise, right? Maybe if aliens come and change something for the better or worse, I don't know what else might save us, but that's it. Up until 2000, I don't know, 100, 2150, 200, until the population stabilizes. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna change. And by then, who knows how many pandemics and wars and much worse stuff might happen. Okay? AI, aliens, whatever.
Gonna come and save you this time. Over time,
I'm very pessimistic. I apologize.
Wages stayed flat.
I just want to talk about
more
this.
Expensive, but earnings don't go up. People.
If anybody has some positive outlook on this, I don't care if it's religious or whatever. I'm not religious, but I don't care if it is. Tell me in the comments, okay? Make me smile at least once for this whole year.
Progress because
the
they
only
can't.
time when I'm smiling is when I'm making dumb jokes.
If money was the only constraint that Gen Z was facing, you'd expect them to be complaining a lot. They definitely would be complaining a whole bunch, but they would still be functional. You might think that the milestones are delayed, but the ultimate outcome would be the same. But instead, we're feeling that something else is going on. Something that's harder to give a name. Something's happening that's deeper than money.
Yep.
Well, if you look back to the ye olde days of education, it seems like schools have given us a clear path to follow. Graduate high school, go to college, get a degree.
What else do I think is happening? I think politics have become way more, I don't know if polarizing is the word. The more left or right people are right now, the more they're divided, the more they're hating each other. Different party, different political beliefs and religious beliefs and people from different places around the world gather in one country, try to push their own agenda of what they think is the best. And I believe in free speech. I am all for that. But a lot of people are getting clustered in their own bubble and they're just falsely believing a lot of information, whether it's true or false, whatever, right? And people are just arguing and fighting over the dumbest stuff possible. And just not focusing on the important stuff in life. So, yeah.
Get a job in your field.
That's also
Hate
another problem.
Get another job. And now...
the overload of misinformation problem. That's what I wanted to say.
If I were to put it in the most elegant and scientific terms I can think of, the path is super dumb and super annoying. The World Economic Forum reports that the job market is changing so fast that half of today's workers will need to reskill within the next 5 years. That means...
yeah. I'll be dead by now. By then, probably, because reskill in 5 years? Well, that means I'll have to reskill in 3 years by then. And then every year. And then every month. Because technology just grows so fast. It's such a crazy pace. Aliens, please come. Please destroy, change us, do something, please.
That the skills and other things that you learn in college might be completely useless by the time you graduate. Meanwhile, the average amount of time Gen Z keeps a job is 2.3 years. Which is the shortest of any generation. And it's not because they're lazy, good-for-nothing swamp rats, even though there may be a level of truth to that, but it's because the jobs themselves are unstable. Because companies lay people off and then post the same position 6 months later. It seems like the old way...
Right now, I do freelance work, right? I make enough money. And I'm doing some other business stuff on the side with my dad. He's helping me out with the business stuff. It's gonna take some time, but you know, it's all mine. It's all like, at least I'm working for myself. But I'm still interviewing because maybe I'll find a good job. Which I will probably keep for like 1 or 2 years until like the business that I'm working with my dad, like changes happen, something changes, something like works, right? But, and I'm also doing videos for fun. But I was at the company interviewing and the manager, whatever the fuck he was, he asked me a fair question. He was like, would you be able to work this job even though you're freelancing? And I was like, yeah, of course. This is when I do freelance work, blah, blah, blah. This is how I would do this job. I would have more than enough time. This job would be my primary thing. And he's like, wouldn't you want to focus on this job? It's a tech job, by the way. Wouldn't you want, because I worked as a software engineer for a year and 8 months. And he's like, would you want to focus more on this job and grow in the, you know, the industry and learn more? And I'm like, yeah, I would focus more. Yeah, I was lying, obviously. But I'm like, but there's no secure job right these days. Like, the guy was like 50 years old, so I'm like, and I know this is bad that I said this, but I don't care. I've got 2 sources of income already. The extra job I'm looking for is just to save up more money. Anyway, and I'm like, yeah, but there's no safe job. There's no safe, reliable jobs these days, like there was decades ago, where you could work at a factory for like 40 years and own a home and everything. I'm seeing tons of seniors being laid off, tons of companies going broke and lying that, oh, we're innovating with AI and changing so many of our workers with AI. Meanwhile, that's not the case for most companies. It's just that they're going broke, so they have to fire tons of people. And they have to lie on LinkedIn, of course. And he's like, this is a safe and reliable job. And I'm looking at him like, I know 5 people who were laid off just in 2025 from this company. The city I live in isn't that big, and the country I live in isn't that big. So people in the tech industry, yeah, we talk and we find out a lot about every big and small company and what's happening in the city. So I was like, and he noticed my facial expressions. He knew that I knew stuff, and he was like, and then he continued the conversation into something else.
Work is no longer the way current jobs work. It's like we laid off the good job market. I tried to make a joke there.
We're both bad at jokes, man.
That went. Psychologist Jeffrey Arnett calls this period emerging adulthood, and he classifies this as a new developmental stage that didn't exist a few years ago. A period from roughly 18 to 29 years old where people are no longer adolescents but haven't stabilized into roughly 18 to 29 years.
29? I'll probably look like this by 25 at this rate.
Years old, where people are no longer adolescents but haven't stabilized into traditional adult roles either. But here's a big difference between Gen Z and previous generations before us. Previous generations had constraints that forced them into decisions. Economic necessity pushed people into jobs.
Also, kids were economically beneficial by the age of 10, 8, something,
social pressure
13.
Pushed them into marriage. Limited options made choices more clear. And now Gen Z has more options than any generation in history. More career paths, more lifestyles, more things to do. We probably consume more information in a single day than a peasant from the 1500s consumed in a lifetime. I genuinely don't know if a farmer from the 16th century could even handle something like Italian brain rot. It would probably send him into a coma. And it's crazy too, because you think this endless amount of options would actually make things easier. But in a sense, this massive amount of abundance has started to create a sort of paralysis. When there's no clear path, every choice feels like a slot machine. Every choice feels like
it's very easy to overanalyze. When you've got a lot of choices, and all of them are fucking horrible, let's be honest. But not all of them, but 99% of them are horrible and dead ends. And you know the future is dark and gloomy, or maybe not dark, but gray. You just overanalyze, overthink. Oh, what's gonna be the safest future-proof job? What business do I start? What's happening in my local area? Wars. How do I scam millions of people with crypto online and be able to retire at the age of 25? You know, Logan Paul stuff.
Making the wrong decision. There's a concept in psychology
I'm against
called
that stuff,
learned
obviously.
helplessness.
Don't do
in the
that.
1960s, Martin Seligman, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I tried my best. But maybe my best wasn't enough.
Who cares,
Martin
man?
Seligman
Come on.
ran experiments showing that when effort consistently fails to produce results, animals and people stop trying. Now apply that to Gen Z's experience. They watch their parents or older siblings do everything right during the 2008 recession and still lose jobs, lose homes, and lose security. They watched COVID ruin career plans overnight. They watched
COVID did a lot of stuff. There was a huge hiring boom in COVID in tech, and now it's just going down. And also a lot of young people destroyed their social skills or just never developed social skills because of COVID.
Become an endless pit with no clear escape. They watched the housing market become pretty much impossible to get into.
1918 in
I
COVID.
still have not forgot that Duncan was clearly the best in the 2007 season of Total Drama Island.
I love this
still
show.
Didn't win. Is that another obscure reference or a totally fun and relatable one? Only time will tell. More than 2 in 5 Gen Z don't believe that their generation is set up for success. On one hand, they feel responsible for their futures,
I'd say it's like 4 in 5.
Which they should, but on the other hand, they feel completely powerless to change it. The gap between this is your responsibility and but you can't actually afford anything creates a weird kind of psychological difficulty. It creates a disturbance in the force, if you will. 36% of Gen Z has given up on the idea of ever owning a home.
Yeah, that's
Not
sad.
delayed it, they've totally given up. In many cases, I would argue that this sense of hopelessness doesn't come from failure, but
here's what has helped me a ton, because you know all of this gloomy, dark shit. I've become very nihilistic. I'm not a philosophy expert, by the way, but I've become a little bit of a nihilist. Not that much, but a little bit. My stress levels, and I tested this. I went to get my blood work done and my hormones. Blood work done, checked, and my stress has never been lower. And I'm expecting maybe even to die tomorrow. I don't know what's gonna happen. A lot of worse, bad stuff might happen. I live in a second world country. I live in Southeastern Europe, right? Another war might erupt in Europe, a huge one. Who knows? What else? And all of this that we're already talking about. And I'm like, hey, listen, I just gave up. I've got no expectations. I'm not attached to any outcome. And I'm like, hey, life's gonna be shit either way. So why stress and care about it? Just accept it. I know it's hard. And I'm not telling you to give up. I'm just telling you to not be so attached to a certain outcome and still work on something, because you gotta have purpose in life, obviously. You got a passion for something, a career, to have a family, something. Do it. Work on it. Don't give up on it, but don't be attached to it. Just know what our circumstances are. And there's been much, much worse circumstances. People have found each other. I don't know if what I just said was grammatically correct. I'm sleep deprived, but people have been in much worse circumstances throughout history. Hey, Homo sapiens survived. I know we want to live and not survive, but that's sadly where we are.
It's from Gen Z putting in all this effort and not seeing any results. I mean, at the end of the day, you can, generally speaking, recover from failure, but it's much harder to overcome the innate belief that putting in effort is pointless and won't get you anywhere. But can Gen Z
detachment
adapt to this new world?
It'll help.
I want to share a stat with you that I found pretty interesting, and it actually gives me a sense of hope. Over 70 million Americans now participate in freelance work, which is 36% of the total workforce.
I mean, I'm not an American, but I do freelance.
Full-time independent workers more than doubled from 13.6 million in 2020 to 27.7 million
yeah,
in
people are trying to be creative.
52% of Gen Z is freelancing, and that means that they are the largest
yeah, and 99% aren't making enough money from freelancing, just so you know.
generation in the gig economy. And it's not because
I'm from a poor
traditional jobs
country,
failed
so
them or they weren't able to get traditional jobs, although that may be the case in a lot of situations, but it's because they're building something different. They're not waiting for permission. They're not following some random path that their school counselor laid out for them. They're building alternative paths.
Bro, the school counselor is struggling financially. Teachers too. Why would we listen to them? No hate to them. Being a teacher is a very, very important profession in life, okay? You're raising the next generations. They have to, like, rule the world. The next doctors, the next politicians in every country. You know what I mean, right?
Remote work, side hustles, creative careers, unconventional timelines. You can literally make money just from dancing on TikTok. Or you can also make money just from people watching you eat food, which is crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. People are paying you to watch you eat food. You can practically start a successful business with nothing but a phone. So I don't think our current world is awful, but it is different. So what does this mean for Gen Z? I already know there's going to be people who saw the title of this video, only watched 2 seconds of it, and then try to argue against everything I said in this video just by repeating the things.
That's what everybody does, okay? We're humans. Don't blame us for being humans, but you can blame us for our mistakes if we do. That's how we learn.
Because they didn't watch the video. Click on my videos just to comment how much they disagree when they didn't even watch the video. It's my favorite thing ever. A video about hating on Gen Z.
What's happening with
this is a video about our system.
My
Gen Z grew
PC
up
is
in
dying.
a world where old rules stopped working, where the milestones that defined adulthood became financially impossible for many people, where the career ladder got shorter and more dangerous, where comparison became infinite and constant. And I don't think it's necessarily that we're failing, but we're learning how to navigate it. And that's not to say that everything that we're doing or everything that we're trying to do is great or even good, but it's just a symptom of us trying to navigate this new world. And maybe the milestones were never actually the point. Maybe they were just synonyms for stability and progress. And if the old ways don't work anymore, that doesn't mean that progress is impossible. It just means there are different ways of achieving it. And if the old ways don't work, that doesn't mean that you're...
Yeah, listen, but the point is, and I agree with a lot of the stuff he says, there's new milestones now. We have to change what we're doing because we can't continue. You know, like the definition of crazy is, if something doesn't work and you just still keep doing it the same way without changing something, right? We gotta change how stuff works with education, with how society is being run or something or whatever, right? Maybe something with the economic model of every single country, especially in the West. Economic model, politics too. Something has to be tried and changed, right? Because we can't fix a new problem with the old stuff that fixed the previous problem. Right? Or we're gonna go in a new world war and restart the whole world again. I don't know. If that even happens, I was gonna say something dark about myself. You'll probably guess what I mean. Have a nice day.